Action.
Fireproofing your marriage. Today, my job is to persuade you to fireproof your marriage. Marriage can be fulfilling, can be the most fulfilling relationship that you can have on this earth. Ask yourself these questions. Would I like being married to me? Would I want to be married to me for the rest of my life? um, I've been married for 24 years, as you all know, and it has been an emotional roller coaster, up, down, and all around. And still, to this very day, I still believe that marriage is an important part of life. It establishes great relationships, and it can be fulfilling. And it's a great teacher. Um, Sometimes the choices that you make in life matters in your marriage, and some of the ones are good, and they're bad. Someone close to me right now is going through a divorce, and to be on the outside looking at it, and you see the hurt and the pain, and then you see the pride, and then you see all kind of emotions going on from not really understanding what's really going on, is really a teacher. And I said to myself, I'm really kind of glad that I didn't make that choice to get a divorce, because I see how hurtful it really, really is. Um, Marriage does not come with a divorce clause. 60% of marriages amongst Christians it ends up in divorce. If you're wondering what are biblical reasons for divorce, there are only two: adultery and abandonment. All other things you are supposed to include the Lord and pray and work through them. One way to avoid this is to communicate. And according to John Miller, who wrote Saving Marriage Beyond Constitutional Amendments, he writes, marriage was intended by God to form a union that transcends all human relationships. Prenuptial agreements even define the terms, which much like a termination clause in a business contract. However, the permission view is incapable with sound scriptural teaching. In a study that by George Barna found that although many Christian churches attempt to dissuade congregants from getting a divorce, the research confirmed the finding identified that tracking these divorces conducted each year that born-again Christians have the same likelihood of divorce as unsaved Christians. The divorce rate for professional born-again Christians was statistically identical to the figure amongst non-Christians. This should not be so. Christ makes it easy that he expects those who would be his followers to have a different standard, to be the salt of the earth and light to the world. Marriage, love is the priority. Uh, Loving relationships must be nurtured. If you neglect your spouse, working too much, not spending time with them, or they're priorities that you should consider. Forgiveness is the fruit of the spirit. Forgive always. Continuing the bad stuff produces pain, suffering, and resentment. Love and care and consideration directed towards another is important. The primary duty of a husband is to love and provide. The primary duty of a wife is to nurture and respect. Marriage, according to Jared Oss, Revitalize Your Marriage, communication is a two-way street. There's a truism about communication between two people. It goes both ways. If a husband thinks that communication in a marriage means that he talks and she listens, you can expect difficulty. If a wife thinks that communication means for her husband to learn from her intuition, she may be forfeiting his logic, or vice versa. Both husband and wife should realize the great potential of good communication, that there are great blessings in both speaking and listening. Marriage and family. There's a TV show that a friend introduced me to, Marcy, called Shameless. And the show is based on a family in Chicago where the mother has abandoned the family and the father is alcoholic. And the last episode I'm going to speak on is because it was very interesting. He had went into an alcoholic coma, and he woke up in a hospital, and so they presented him with the ultimatum: we'll give you $3,000 if you can remain sober. So he took the deal. But in finding him being sober, his family, his children, who he always caused these issues for, really couldn't handle him being sober, because he had hurt them once before being sober and then went back to drinking. So what they did was he had to wear this monitor on his ankle, and So they literally tied the father down and poured alcohol back into his mouth. The children did. What happens is when you live in dysfunction, and his alcoholism actually became their safety net because of the pain that he inflicted on them as a father. And so that made them more comfortable. And I thought that was really interesting that they did that, even though he lost the money. See, and that goes to show children are a blessing. They're not an inconvenience. When you get married, they're according to James and Betty Robinson, Living in Love. You must have this attitude, that commitment to see things through no matter what, with the heart determined, effort on your part to endure the difficulties and trials of your relationship no matter what. Family values, which means stop doing the things that harm your family, like the guy in Shameless. Drinking definitely harms your family. And God is the author of marriage. Marriage is a sacred institution established by God. Okay? Humility and mutual submission are crucial keys to a great marriage. Putting God first in your marriage is important. You will experience joy and security. And according to 1 Peter, be submissive to one another and be clothed with humility. For God resists the proud, but grace to the humble. In conclusion, regardless of what you experience, successes and failures, happiness and discouragement at the end, know that God's love conquers all. I encourage you to spend time with your mate, always seeking to understand and not be understood. Carefully and lovingly enforce your family values by making them your first priority and treating them like it's the last day that you will live. Honor and cherish each other, and remember never to take each other for granted. Love selfish, love kindly, love patiently, love always, and forgive always. Always try to remember that Christ being at the center of your marriage, all things are possible through him. And lastly, peace is more important than being